Hi, everyone. Dr. Kel Fujimoto, Senior Director of Wellness at San Francisco Bay University. And today we're doing episode 14 and talking about music, specifically the therapy group Making Meaning Through Music at Ohio University. I'm excited about my guest who is joining us here on the Wellness Octave, Caitlin Kraus, Senior Counselor at Ohio University and the facilitator of the group. Now, whether you're listening while commuting, working out, or watching while you're relaxing at home, thank you for joining us. If you find today's episode helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe, or share it with someone who you feel might benefit from it. Sometimes all it takes is just one conversation, and that can make all the difference. Now, my guest today, Miss Caitlin Kraus, she is a licensed professional clinical counselor with a training supervision designation and a licensed professional music therapist in counseling and psychological services at Ohio University. She provides individual and group counseling, crisis intervention services, supervision training, and oversight of personal staff. She is the current past president of the Southeast Ohio Counseling Association and has also provided individual and group counseling services to adult clients in community mental health and co-occurring mental health substance abuse settings. She has served as a music therapy professor at Ohio University and has provided individual and group counseling, individual and group music therapy services to adults and adolescents in community mental health, inpatient psychiatric, forensic, substance abuse rehabilitation, and domestic shelter settings in Athens and Columbus, Ohio, as well as Austin, Texas. Her therapeutic style is rooted in a humanistic approach, though largely integrative, and her areas of interest include college student and community mental health and well-being, trauma-informed care, multicultural issues, anxiety, depression, grief, and suicide prevention. When not working as a counselor and music therapist, but it sounds like she's working all the time as a counselor and music therapist. Caitlin enjoys writing and performing her own folk rock music as well as playing old-time Appalachian tunes with musicians in the Athens, Ohio community. She also enjoys drawing, making collages, reading, hiking, and spending time with her family, friends, and dogs. I'm so glad she has time to do those things as well. So welcome,
Sounds
Caitlin.
awesome.
I am excited to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I've been enjoying
Great.
episodes of the Wellness Octave. So,
Thank you. Thank you. So tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your journey into counseling and music therapy and what inspired you to combine those two passions.
well, without going into my whole, lengthy history of life, music has always been an important thing to me. I think the arts in general have always been something that have been helpful to my own mental health, connecting to myself and others. And so, you know, learning about different things that I could study when I was in high school and considering going to college, I came upon music therapy. And so that's where my path led me. And after working as a music therapist and having a lot of experiences in mental health settings or settings where mental health issues were coming up quite commonly, I found that that's really, sort of the area that I feel most passionate about. And working with adults, I think would be the population that I was most passionate about. Although, that has now led me to working with young adults in a university setting, as well as some non-traditional students and not always considered young adults. So I would say that, to keep it short and sweet, my own use of creativity, of arts, and specifically music in my life led me to music therapy. And then music therapy eventually led me to decide that I also wanted to become a counselor in mental health and
Yeah.
work as a therapist. And so, as journeys often do, they've sort of become woven together. And I feel very lucky that I, did not decide to stray away from my role as a music therapist, that I have been able to weave it into the jobs that I have had in community mental health and now in a university college center setting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love the fact that you're able to take that passion and combine it, right, and use it for the work that you do. I mean, I love music, right? And many people think music is entertainment, right?
Mm.
But music therapy is so much more than that, right? And so,
Yes.
can you explain to our viewers what music therapy is and really what it isn't?
Yes, I think an early memory of being a music therapy student was, okay, get the elevator speech ready about what music therapy is. And unfortunately, I don't know that I ever mastered that elevator speech. But what I would say, I'm going to not give such a clinical definition of what it is. The way that I would like to describe it is that music therapy, depending on the population and depending on one's goals and needs of a person or a group of people, it can look like many things. But really, the way I think about it is we're using music as a medium, as a vehicle, in some cases, almost as its own entity, in the therapeutic relationship, where we can work on non-musical goals. So sometimes creativity is the goal. I will say that. However, a lot of times we're working on fostering more emotional wellness, social wellness, cognitive wellness, focus. And I think that music is one of those things where if we look at it from a scientific standpoint, we know that it really lights up all the parts of the brain when we do different musical when we engage musically, whether that's listening to music, playing music, even talking about music sometimes. And so we know that from a neurological and scientific level, what it's doing and how it's working with the brain. However, I think it would be remiss to not include sort of the soul spiritual aspect of that as well. That as humans, a lot of us are drawn to the arts and music and those things enrich our lives and they allow us pardon the cliche, to sort of, not always need words, right? Words are very good as part of our communication, but music is also something that I think can really reach us on so many levels at once. And so to go back to your original question, I think music therapy in the context that I use it the most, especially in the university college setting, I would say is really to connect one to oneself, right? To understand oneself better and connect to our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences in a meaningful way, in a creative way. Also to extend that to others. So in the group setting that I'll talk about, we're getting to connect to others and have that social wellness, that sense of belonging, sense of mutual understanding or learning about one another. I also think that um, this is more clinical, right? But improving mood, decreasing depressive symptoms, being able to learn ways to use music to perhaps decrease anxiety, to have more tools, more ways of expressing oneself, rather than doing what is often hard and having to just say it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. So those
yeah,
are that's touching on some different points there.
yeah. That's a great explanation of music therapy and how it it's so beneficial, right, for many who to be able to tap into their feelings and to be able to express themselves in ways that maybe they can't express themselves.
Right.
Um, the title itself, I mean, making meaning through music. I mean, you started talking about the group and all that. If a student is listening to this, I mean, how would you help them understand what their experience will be like if they attend the group or if they're in the group?
Yeah, so first of all, I do screen individually before somebody enters the group. I get the referral. We do a group
Okay.
screen to kind of understand what is leading this person to be interested in the group in the first place, and the logistics, does it work with their schedule and that sort of thing. But to get an understanding of what they hope changes, what goals they would like to work on
Hmm.
as a result of coming to group. So I go into the group knowing on an individual basis what everybody's sort of coming in with and what their hopes are for the group. Um, but as part of the group, our very first session, part of that is spent getting to know one another through music. So sharing perhaps a song or something about ourselves musically so that we can get to know sort of our musical selves. We can make those introductions. One thing I do let people know right off the bat too is that you do not have to have musical talent or skill or ability, however you want to frame that. You don't have to even identify as like I'm a creative person. Really, the only thing would be, I guess, that you enjoy music to some extent, because that might not be for you if you're like, I just don't really listen to music. I don't really care about music, right? Um, that might not be the most motivating group to be in. So some of the things that we do in the group, and again, I tailor this, it's going to depend to some extent on what goals and what needs the individuals and as a collective, what is being voiced and what is being explored there. But some of the things we typically do would be song sharing and listening, and then being able to process verbally about the songs that are being shared, playlist making, maybe based on different
Hmm.
themes that usually the themes are emerging, right? Like I can always kind of say like, okay, well, this is probably a theme that college students might all relate to, or based on what I learned in the group screenings, I might know some people have some common themes in common. But typically, it's a collaborative thing where we're deciding as a group what are the themes that are important to us to start exploring. We do some music-based grounding and relaxation exercises. So that could look like taking some of the, breathing, body-based, mindfulness-based types of grounding and relaxation that we might be introducing as counselors to our clients, but using music to reinforce or enhance that experience. Using the rhythmic qualities, using the melodic or harmonic qualities of music to really tap into some of those grounding experiences a bit more. My favorite thing to do, so that's more on the receptive end of things. So I kind of think of
Hmm.
it as a spectrum, is, we have more of the receptive, taking in, I'm listening to music, I'm sharing music that already exists, or I'm listening and bringing in music for grounding. And then on the other end, we start to move towards actually expressing ourselves through the actual music. So I try, and I don't think any iteration of the group I've had so far has ever been like, no, we don't want to do that. But we eventually write a song together. We write a group song, and again, usually the theme really emerges from what the group is voicing. They want to write about as a collective, and we process, in the course of writing those lyrics and writing the music, playing the music, creating the music. We talk about, you know, what does the song mean in the context of our lives, right?
Hmm.
So we process through that. Um, we have rich discussions around what comes up in not just the lyrics, but also musically, right? Making decisions about the music together. So if this is what a song is about and these are the lyrics, what what does the music sound like? What instruments do we want
Hmm.
to use? What's the tempo? What are the dynamics and volume? What's the vibe? That's not a very musical characteristic word, but what are we trying to express here? And then usually in our very last group or second to last group, we record the song. I will say I don't have state-of-the-art recording equipment, so I always give them the disclaimer, hey, this is going to be kind of amateur recording, but that's okay. We really emphasize the process over the product. So while it's cool to walk away with a recording and sort of an artifact of our time together to celebrate, it's really more about the process. And that's what we really emphasize is process over perfection or over product. Um,
Yeah.
so anyway, that was a little lengthy. We also incorporate art. I am not an art therapist, but we do sometimes incorporate basic art to sort of, let's create some art about the lyrics we just wrote and that sort of.
That's sounds so powerful and amazing. How many students on average are in the group?
Well, typically, I would say the average that I've had is between 5 and 6 people. So it's not a very large group, but
Hmm.
we have a number of groups at Counseling and Psychological Services at OU, Ohio University. So really part of getting people referred is, well, one, based on their interest and are they
Right.
motivated for this group, and does it fit their needs? But also like, does the time and day work with their schedules? And
Right.
so sometimes we struggle, if I'm going to be honest, to get enough referrals, but so far,
Right.
even one semester, I haven't gotten enough. And so we usually can start a group if there's about 5 people or more. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I definitely know the whole logistics with starting a group on a campus, right? I mean, and so you
yeah.
have to have the students commit to the group, right? It sounds like it's a closed group, which students can come
Yes.
in and out, right? As far as throughout the semester. Does it go throughout the semester?
It goes throughout the semester. So typically, so we have I don't know. I know some schools do things differently with semesters, but we have fall semester and spring semester, and then there are summer classes, but we don't typically do groups in the summer. So we have a new iteration, a new referral group of referrals each fall and each spring. Typically, that first month or so of class is when we take the referrals. And so I would say I've averaged between 8 and 10 sessions of the group each semester with folks. And yeah, it is a closed group. So that helps with some of the group
Hmm.
cohesion and really familiarizing ourselves and building rapport with one another and having that sort
Yeah.
of solidarity. So,
Yeah. So it sounds like if I was a student coming into the group, I would come in, talk about like I could bring a playlist or a song that I feel like represents what I'm feeling or expresses how I'm feeling this week or last week or anything like that. Are there like instruments in the group
yes,
as well?
yeah, good question. I kind of left that part off. So I don't I will say that I each semester, I don't go in pre-planning like this. It's going to be a cookie cutter version of the last semester because
Hmm.
how could it be? It's different people and different
Right.
things coming up. However, I do sort of use a basic model in my mind of, okay, we're just getting to know each other in the first couple sessions or so. And so I'm not gonna push playing instruments on them right away because that can be a little intimidating and vulnerable
Hmm.
depending on who's in the group, right? If like I said, there's no expectation that anybody's coming in with any music experience other than, maybe listening to music. And so usually the first session or two, we're doing more on that receptive end of things where we're listening to music, we're sharing music, we're talking about the music we're sharing, maybe doing some music-based grounding, relaxation. And I also do have the instruments in the room to start introducing them to the instruments. So usually in the first couple sessions, I start to introduce them to some of the guitar, ukulele, we have a keyboard. I just got a new beautiful wooden xylophone, so that'll be something that
Wow.
I incorporate here in the future. A bunch of different percussion instruments. And so I would say that I kind of my hope is that I'm sort of easing students into here are the instruments that we will most likely be working with over the course of our time together. Let me teach you about them. Let me teach you basics about how to play them without boxing you in, because I want the spirit of play and I want the spirit of creativity to be the largest thing. I don't want it to feel like, oh, you did it wrong, right? You made a
Right.
mistake. I want to really sort of capture that that spirit of curiosity and there are no mistakes here and let's just like let's access a little bit of that child self too and just play, right? So
Yeah.
I always tell people this is how we typically play it, but you could also do it this way or that way. And another thing that I try to be mindful of is cultural considerations. So some of the instruments that I'm using, like the djembe drum, for example, the djembe comes traditionally from West Africa. The ones that I have might have been manufactured in the US, but they are traditionally a West African instrument. And so I do try to teach a little bit about the history of the instrument and just being mindful that we're not appropriating you know these materials. We're not trying to appropriate. We're, if anything, paying respect and honoring, the spirit of music through these instruments and learning about the cultural components as we go along.
Yeah, I
So,
appreciate that
yeah,
cultural sensitivity on that, and awareness of that. So
yeah,
that's incredible. As I know we're going off on a little tangent here, but as you talk about, because this is so fascinating. I mean, not fascinating, but it's just so great to hear about this. I think about like What popped in my head were two things. One was I remember when, I was in grade school when really young, and they had those musical instruments in time where we played musical instruments, right? And I would grab the tambourine and just kind of shake it up, like shake it up
Yes.
and make that sound, right? Like, and that's probably was my expression of what I was feeling in the moment, and the second thing is I was thinking about is like as infants, how we use song to
Mhm.
soothe and calm, our children, our child, um,
Yes. Yeah.
and how meaningful that is.
Yeah. And I point that out to people too. Like, when was the last time you were in a, room full of just instruments that you could just touch and play around with and
Yeah.
explore? And a lot of them, like, oh, it's been a long time. It's been years. And, it's like if we've had the privilege of being around instruments in that way, the last time we probably were doing that like was grade school or maybe middle school.
Right.
So I think it's also a unique time to kind of it can be a great way to practice safe and empowered vulnerability. And again, part of that is easing them into the familiarity with the instruments if they're not already familiar with them, and making sure that they feel like they have a grasp on it. And I'm not just like, okay, everybody pick one up. It's our very first session, right?
Mhm.
And something you also said reminded me of we usually do by the second or third session move into starting with a brief music-based check-in. So that looks like, okay, if you're comfortable, pick an instrument from first check in with yourself for a moment, slow down from your busy day and check in with how you're doing, your thoughts, your feelings, your body, what's going on. And then choose an instrument if you're comfortable that maybe you think you could reflect that feeling, that sensation, those thoughts with. And so we sort of do it's a little bit of a game in a way, like you would play, let's say on your tambourine, right? And you would play something and then the rest of the group would get an opportunity to sort of voice what they think you might be experiencing today.
Mm.
Um, and then you have time to clarify, like, yes, that was what I was feeling, or actually, no, I was trying to show that I'm feeling this way. So it's also sort of an exercise in, you know, uh, getting to know each other that way, checking in,
Yeah.
slowing down, again, expressing ourselves through music, not just through words immediately. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. This is all great. So if another college or university wanted to create a program like yours, right, what advice would you give them about using music as a tool to promote wellness and belonging?
Yeah. Well, first, I would say again, I have a background as a music therapist, so I am licensed, and that is a field of study that, music therapists are specialized in and credentialed in. And so, I think the best case scenario would be like, can you find is there somebody who could be who is a music therapist that
Yeah.
could be part of your team, right? So I will advocate for that. However, I also want to be mindful that music therapists do not own music as a therapeutic medium, right? Music in and of itself can be therapeutic. And I do think that, within scope of practice, other clinicians or people can use music in a therapeutic way. What I would suggest is maybe going to some music therapy based workshops if you can, or consulting with a music therapist if you can. Um, and that could be helpful to that process. Something that is, I think, speaks to the power of music is that, it can take us to a very deep place very quickly. And that can be very wonderful and healing and
Hmm.
empowering. It can also sometimes be traumatic depending
Yes.
on lots of factors, right? So, just an example, when I was a rookie music therapist working in an inpatient hospital with adults, um, we were playing or singing that song Stand By Me, won't you
Hmm.
stand by me. So we're singing that and it's, really a positive song, right? It's about supporting one another, seeking support. And somebody got very triggered because it was playing in the background during a very traumatic experience they had. And so we can't always account for things like that, but I think it's just important for anybody using music in a therapeutic, healing, social, belonging based way, right? We want to be mindful that everybody has different experiences with music. Another thing to be aware of is loud sounds can be very triggering for people for different reasons. It could be a neurodivergency that, loud sounds and also textures of instruments might be pleasant or unpleasant. Also, trauma sometimes involves, loud sounds, and so we want to be mindful of that. So, again, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here. I could go really in depth about this, but I think, something to be mindful of. That's not to scare people away from using music. It's just to go into it really considering um, that there are some factors to pay attention to. It's a reason I would, maybe let people know, hey, if anything ever comes up that is maybe triggering, give this signal or,
Yeah,
let me know so that we can navigate that together. So but I think something that anyone should keep in mind is that music, again, is very powerful. It's a connector, and so it can be very motivating, I think, especially to college students. And I mean, not just college students, people of all ages.
yes,
And so sometimes, let's say you're not even running let's say it's not a music therapy group or a music-based group, but let's say you're doing some other sort of group, maybe you can bring music into it as a way to build rapport, to build trust, to start to get to know each other. So I
yeah,
think even if you're not comfortable or that's not what you're looking to do is like a full-blown music-based group or event, perhaps you can still incorporate music in some way that can really just help people open up and start to get to know each other better.
yeah.
So,
So well said. Uh, s- Excellent. And so knowledgeable. You're so knowledgeable in this. So I appreciate you sharing all of that. How do people reach you? I mean, where can they get more information about the group or even about services or maybe even to briefly consult?
well, I am more than happy to answer questions, consult, and my email, I can say it here. I also think maybe you're able to put that in the podcast, but it is krausc@ohio.edu. So that's krausc@ohio.edu. I'm more than happy to connect there. Um, I'm on LinkedIn and things like that too, but to be honest, don't interact a whole lot that way. So email would probably be the easiest, most efficient
Okay.
way. And I'm
Okay.
more than
Yeah,
happy.
we'll definitely put it in the link and
Yeah.
on the screen here as well. Um, you know, Great conversations go by fast, right? Time flies when we're having great conversations. So, one last question that I'd like to
Yeah.
ask all of the guests who are invited onto the podcast. How do you keep yourself well? And what do you do to maintain a well-balanced life?
Yes, that is a good question. So I think, well, music is one of those things. As you noted, it's something that I do outside of my professional work as well. And so I think playing music for me is a joy and a way to connect to myself and others. And so it is definitely part of my own wellness. My dogs are very much a part of my wellness too. And I think, you know, in the spirit of just being honest and transparent, I go to therapy too, right? I practice what I preach. I think it's important to take care of ourselves as therapists. Sometimes that means going to therapy as well. Um, and I think another thing that helps me is just reserving a little bit of time in the morning to read for pleasure. So if I can have
Nice.
25 minutes to just like read for pleasure, not related to work, not related to anything, not scrolling, but like a just a book, right? A paper
Mhm.
book, then that helps me a lot leading into the rest of my day. So,
Okay. Well, Caitlin, thank you for joining me here and for all the amazing work that you're doing there at Ohio University. And thank
thank
you,
you.
everyone, yeah, for spending your time with us on the Wellness Octave. If today's episode encouraged you or taught you something new, I'd like you to hit that like button, subscribe, or leave a review or share it with someone who can benefit from it, hearing it. Okay, our conversations about wellness become more powerful when we have them all together. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and your soul. Stay healthy, be well, one note at a time. Caitlin, thank you so much for joining me. Love the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. I
All
enjoyed
right.
it.